An anthill is a highly organized community. It functions as a single mechanism. There are dozens of insect species that parasitize them, but there is one that destroys the anthill in a special way.
And in particular, there are beetles that release certain substances, and these substances, in essence, affect ants like alcohol affects humans.
A small Lamprema beetle can infiltrate the anthill. In response to all the inhabitants' attempts to deal with the intruder, it releases a narcotic substance. Immediately getting used to the narcotic, instead of driving away the parasitic beetle, the ants begin to feed it. Under the influence of the narcotic, the behavior of the ants changes, and they no longer care about their own offspring. But what happens in human society?
I never thought before about why a child ends up in an orphanage. Right now, there are 38 children in the institution. Of them, only 30% are orphans, meaning children who have no parents. 70% are children who ended up in the orphanage while their parents are still alive. The main reason for these 70% is alcoholism, the alcoholism of the parents. Statistics show that the remaining 30% of children are often because parents die at 32, 28, or 29 years old. And they die for one reason: alcoholism.
Alcohol is the main cause of orphanhood in Russia. About 80% of children in orphanages are social orphans. That is, these children have parents, but they are deprived of parental rights due to alcohol. Most children in drinking families often, unfortunately, go through a difficult and challenging situation, being raised by alcoholic parents. According to an anonymous survey conducted in the Kemerovo region, 60% of children in drinking families are subjected to violence.
Another form of terrible, cruel treatment is sexual violence. Unfortunately, such cases also exist in our country. Typically, in social families, where, for example, a mother who drinks lives, there are constant gatherings, with people coming and going, strangers. In a drunken stupor, various situations arise, including cruel treatment such as sexual violence against children, regardless of the child's age or gender. Regarding the children who were in our orphanage, there were 48 children living here. And out of these 48 children, 5 children had experienced sexual violence in the family.
Every year in Russia, about 300,000 children are removed from families on a temporary or permanent basis. In 2018, the number of children in orphanages amounted to 48,000. The number of children placed in foster families or under guardianship exceeded 400,000. Here is what the world-renowned surgeon, academician Fyodor Grigorievich Uglov, wrote about the spread of alcohol. The alcohol addiction that has engulfed our country did not come to us by itself. It was artificially imposed. In human society, the Lamakus has its own division of labor. Some supply the narcotic liquid, while others ideologically manipulate the working ants. Using the press, television, and other mass media, such as those available at their disposal, time passes, and the anthill gradually degrades. Ants with deviations begin to appear. By analogy with humans, they can be called Down syndrome ants. The reason for their appearance is the same narcotic substance released by the Lamakus, which began to alter their physiological structure.
Hypertrophy of the labial glands occurs in worker ants, and they become such deformities, pseudo-grotesque. Naturally, they no longer perform the functions that they should normally perform.
Well, naturally, there is even the concept of a child born with fetal alcohol syndrome. That is, it is a certain set of pathologies, to varying degrees, including some mental deviations and physical deformities.
Entering the body, alcohol damages the reproductive cells, which carry genetic information. This leads to infertility or the birth of sick children. According to data from Novosibirsk scientists Detinenko and Grajdanikov, over 90% of defective and mentally retarded children are born to drinking parents, and each liter of per capita consumption brings about 10 to 12,000 deformed infants each year.
This is a genetic impact that changes a person's intellectual appearance, restructuring in such a way that this set of symptoms arises, which is defined as fetal alcohol syndrome.
Children have severe diseases of the central nervous system, gastrointestinal tract, and musculoskeletal system. For 12 years now, there has been a child in our orphanage who came to us at the age of 4. The child came from a socially disadvantaged family where the parents abused alcohol. Thus, at 16 years old, the child weighs 12 kilograms.
There is a saying, grandfather drank away his grandson's liver. People who consume alcohol for the most part do not think about what their children and grandchildren will be like, and it is undoubtedly the subsequent generations in the future that will suffer from this to a greater extent in the coming years.
If you search for the words, the most dangerous drug in the world in search engines, you can see that according to various studies, alcohol ranks at the top. And according to some of them, it is indeed the very most hazardous. First of all, due to its easy availability, as it is freely and conveniently sold alongside food products, and a person does not have concerns about it. Let's see what definition is given to alcohol. The Great Soviet Encyclopedia. Alcohol is classified as a narcotic poison. Alcohol or ethanol is classified as a fatty type narcotic poison. A course of lectures on forensic medicine. The Great Encyclopedic Dictionary. Ethyl alcohol is a narcotic substance.
Yes, it is indeed, from a medical standpoint, certainly a poison. Undoubtedly, it is a narcotic substance, as it causes addiction.
Here is what academician Uglov wrote about this. It can already be said that the genetic code of the nation is under threat, and it is indeed its main treasure. Our societal mind must finally realize that the destruction and loss of the genetic level of the nation are the greatest crimes not only against living generations, but also against future ones. The depth of degradation can be so great that the gene pool may not be salvageable. We must finally abandon the illusion of a harmless dose of alcohol. There are no such doses for drugs. As time goes on, more and more ants stop performing their work functions, becoming addicted to the narcotic substance released by parasitic beetles. But these ants eat just like everyone else. The anthill begins to lack food to feed everyone, both Lamhexis and Down syndrome ants, as well as healthy ants, the number of which is rapidly decreasing.
It seems to be a stalemate situation. Ants cannot realize that their family is degrading precisely due to this chemical mimicry of Lamhexis.
The number of lamihus is increasing. New parasitic beetles are emerging from the larvae. The level of drug consumption is increasing significantly, and at some point, it becomes critical. According to Rospotrebnadzor, approximately 500,000 people die prematurely in Russia each year from various consequences of alcohol consumption. So it can be said that every year in our country, an entire city of regional significance, with hundreds of streets and thousands of houses, is wiped off the face of the earth due to alcohol. Alcohol is the main cause of serious crimes. In forensic institutions of 13 major districts of the Transbaikal region, an analysis of the death records was conducted, which showed that alcohol was found in the blood of those who died from external causes, in 67% of cases. Alcohol was found in the blood in 60% of suicide cases. In murders, it was 73%, and in traffic accidents, it was 56%.
According to rough estimates, 60% of people who were killed were in a state of intoxication, as revealed in forensic autopsies. Approximately 80% of murderers were in a state of intoxication at the time of the crime.
It is clearly evident from such statistics that alcohol is a primary cause of mortality. In 2016, the mortality rate from external causes per 100,000 population in the most sober regions of Russia was 25 in Chechnya, 23 in Ingushetia, in regions with high alcohol consumption. Transbaikal Territory 171, Amur region, 210.
As a member of the Public Council under the Federal Penitentiary Service, I often visit correctional facilities, colonies, and prisons and request statistics on convicts. And I come to the same conclusion, that the main cause of crime in our country is alcohol. Here are the latest data from the Oriel region. Of 100% of those convicted of rape, 60% were committed in a state of alcohol intoxication. If we take Article 105, murder, 74% were committed in a state of alcohol intoxication. Of 100% of those convicted for traffic accidents resulting in death, 63% were committed in a state of alcohol intoxication. Similar statistics exist for other regions. If someone thinks that buying alcohol does not concern them, they should consider that every ruble spent on the alcohol industry turns into a huge tragedy for someone. Someone's child gets into a traffic accident with a drunk driver. Someone's wife, mother, or sister becomes a victim of a drunk criminal. Personally, I absolutely do not consume alcohol and do not want to be involved in this at all.
Here is what academician Ugloff wrote about this. It is necessary to explain to people, in the name of what higher ideals we are making millions of our fellow citizens chronic alcoholics, supporting hundreds of thousands of people who serve them. In the name of what great goals are we bringing into the world? Hundreds of thousands of idiots and defective people who suffer throughout their lives, torment others, and become a burden on the shoulders of the country's population. In the name of what we are suffering huge material and human losses, weakening our economy and defense capabilities. By becoming accustomed to the narcotic substance secreted by parasitic beetles, ants doom themselves and their anthill to destruction. The number of sick and weak ants is increasing. There is no one to sort through the nesting material, and it begins to rot. Soon, the process of degradation will become irreversible. The only chance for salvation is to resort to forced cleaning by removing the sick ants. Let's see who feeds the parasitic beetles in the anthill. It is the ants themselves who do this. They bring food to them. What money do the sick ants use to draw teenagers into alcoholism? They buy false scientists who talk about the harmlessness of alcohol. They bribe lobbying officials who block the adoption of any restrictive measures. Where do they get the means to do this? We ourselves give them money for this. By purchasing alcohol, we are giving money for the corruption of our children. By buying alcohol, we are giving money for the increase of orphanhood, for the destruction of hundreds of thousands of children's lives. Not a single drop considers itself guilty of the flood. I only bought a couple of bottles, but maybe because of this, someone will never know what maternal love is. Just imagine what a step we will take in development when we rid ourselves of this narcotic substance that is killing our society. Life expectancy will increase. Society will forget about many diseases. Our health level will rise. Hundreds of thousands of children will not be subjected to violence, will have a healthy childhood, and the love of their loved ones. People will preserve their reproductive health and will have the opportunity to become fathers or mothers. A huge number of children who were supposed to be born sick and undergo multiple surgeries will be born healthy and will live a full life. Instead of colossal losses, additional financial opportunities will arise. Money will be saved both in the country's budget and in each family's budget. Tens of thousands of criminal offenses will be prevented. The level of safety in our society will increase. By completely rejecting alcohol and choosing a sober lifestyle, we will discover hidden potential for our own development and success, as well as for the well-being and prosperity of the entire country.